Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for this Women in Solar webcast. I'm Caitlin McClintock with Grid Alternatives. For those of you who are new to Grid, thank you for joining us. Grid is a nonprofit organization that makes solar accessible to underserved communities. We install solar exclusively for low-income families using a volunteer model that provides opportunities for job trainees, community volunteers, and really anybody who's interested in getting some hands-on experience in solar. So our long-term vision is a transition to renewable energy that is all-inclusive. We believe that if we're going to succeed, we need to be able to engage everybody from low-income families to seniors to minorities and women. Today's webcast is part of an initiative we launched in partnership with SunEdison to bring more women into the solar industry and help women already in the industry thrive. The solar industry is growing exponentially, and in order to sustain that fantastic level of growth we're experiencing and ensure that the industry is meeting the needs of all consumers, we really need to bring the voices, talents, and leadership of women to the table. So we organized this series of discussions to highlight some of the career pathways that are available in solar and to inspire more women to join the industry, as well as have a frank discussion about some of the barriers that women face. Our previous webcasts and discussions are all available online at gridalternatives.org/women. So we invite you to engage directly with our panelists using the Q&A feature in the Google Hangout window. It should be open on the right-hand side of where we are speaking now. And we put together an amazing panelist today of women working in very different parts of the industry to talk about women as drivers of solar adoption and how women's interests are shaping technology and the industry itself. So please join me in welcoming Paige Crahan, the co-founder of Claris Power, Deborah Knuckey, head of global marketing for Enphase Energy, Kellyann Lamb, director of business development and strategic partnerships at Sunrun, Simbo Sonjinrin, country manager for Solar Sister Nigeria, and last but not least, Glenna Wiseman, the principal at Identity 3. So I'm going to turn it over to our panelists, and for a little bit of an introduction of themselves, since part of this initiative is really talking about pathways, please give a little bit of information about how you ladies all got to where you're at today, and we will kick it off with Paige Crahan.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Caitlin, and thanks to Grid for assembling this panel. It's a really important topic that I care a lot about, and I'm really excited to talk with my esteemed colleagues this morning. I've been in the solar industry for about 7 years. I joined from the finance industry, and I really just cared about the idea of changing the way people power their homes. I joined Sunrun in 2009, which is a residential solar financing company. Spent many fond years working with Kellyann at Sunrun. When I joined Sunrun, it was about 20 people, so really small and relatively early in what we know today as residential solar. About a year and a half ago, I started a company focused on improving residential solar customer acquisition. And this is at Claris Power, where we are building a social platform for residential solar that focuses on educating customers. We partner with top installers and financiers to take customers through the process of enrolling to become a solar customer. And we are particularly focused on making clean energy interesting for women. By simplifying the conversation, by making it fun, and connecting it to really the bigger picture of promoting a healthy lifestyle and sustainable energy choices. And one of the really sort of anecdotal things that I just like to add about why I'm here, I was in sales at the Sunrun, and I probably sold, to many hundreds of homeowners, and invariably it would be a man. And at the end of the conversation, he would sort of say candidly to me, how am I supposed to explain this to my wife, or any tips on how to get my wife to say yes? And I just thought, well, can't we just put her on the phone? Why am I not talking to your wife? And so that really made me think about the fact that women are the ones who are oftentimes paying the bills at home, making the choices about what goes on in their house, and they're really they're thinking about the future and sustainable choices, and that's really where we should be talking to consumers. Thanks, Caitlin.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paige. Simbo, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm really honored to be on this panel. My name is Simbo Sonjinrin, and I'm the country manager for Solar Sister in Nigeria. Solar Sister started actually 6 years ago when the founder, Catherine Lucy, traveled to Uganda to install a solar kit in the community. And what she soon found was that not only was there the prevalence of energy poverty, but that the women played a very unique and pivotal role in deciding where the light would be put. And that was 6 years ago. Since then, Solar Sister has scaled to Tanzania and the Nigerian operation, which I now manage. Basically, what we do is we go into remote communities and we recruit women who would become energy advisors in their communities. We train them, we handhold them, we mentor them, coach them through what it takes to become an entrepreneur and support them throughout that journey. These women are essentially energy advisors. They're able to provide energy solutions to other members of their community. So that's what we're doing. I've been in this role for 2 years now. Prior to this, I was a consultant on a UNDP project on access to finance for renewable energy in Nigeria. And before that, I also worked with the British Council, where we managed programs that had to do with technology transfer, climate change, and other such programs.
Thank you, Simbo. Kellyann, over to you now.
Hi there, my name is Kellyann Lamb, and I am the Director of Business Development for Sunrun. And I am a 20-plus year sales veteran. The last 7 of those years have been in renewables. Prior to Sunrun, I owned a sales and marketing agency representing large tech and retail companies such as Gap and Adobe. And when I sold my firm, I thought renewables were super interesting and exciting. And I became a Sunrun customer. I loved it so much that I called them up and I went to work for them. So over the last 5.5 years at Sunrun, for the first 2.5 years, I helped stand up the channel sales team, representing 80% of the company's revenue. And then for the last 3 years in this business development role, it's been uncovering opportunities with leading consumer brands, such as Comcast, to leverage the power of their brand equity and create a differentiation in the marketplace to sell our products and to gain access to customers that are unaware that solar is available to them. Sunrun, as Paige mentioned, Sunrun is one of the founding innovators in residential solar. They pioneered the concept of the residential PPA. And it's exciting because distributed generation has been the major transformation in a $170 billion industry that has not changed in greater than 100 years. And so residential solar is that driving force of change. And over the last 5 years, it's been interesting to watch, as Paige has commented, how the industry has evolved, acquiring customers, talking about the product, the new players that are coming into the space. And because of all of this evolution, it's creating an opportunity for women to have a really unique role and to have a different voice on an innovation play in a very archaic traditional industry. So very, very excited to be here, excited to talk about the experiences. And Sunrun was founded by one of our founders as a woman, and so it really does talk about the soul of Sunrun to women in solar.
Thank you so much, Kellyann. Glenna, please introduce yourself.
I think you have to. There we go. I am so inspired with this amount of brain power that's in this room in the cloud today. My pathway to the solar industry really started in 2001 when my partners and I formed a residential smart home integration firm. And as such, we were working with builders of mid to high-end level homes, and I sat with hundreds of couples and really was able to resonate with Paige's comment, because I sat with the husband and the wife wanted to know about lifestyle issues, and the husband was more involved in technology, and not to make generalizations, but it was a day in, day out experience with what's happening in the solar industry. When the market crashed, I was incredibly fortunate enough to take that integrator model experience, that construction experience. So that's an example that you can actually move into solar from other industries, move that experience into solar and work with an installer, a multi-state installer, really putting the parameters and structure around their marketing department for the first time and helping them to experience 5x growth in a time frame that was really tough to do that. So I got a lot of experience. I actually met and worked with the Sunrun team and the Enphase team, and so and some grid, and it was, so these roots that are coming forth to blossom now are really exciting. How did I get involved in this discussion? I started with a conversation on Solar Power World magazine with Marty Barletta, who's the country's leading authority on marketing to women in general. And at the time, Raina Russo, shout out to Raina of Solar Chat, and I were working together on Solar Chats, and we decided we wanted to find out, is it right that women are the key decision makers related to residential solar? So we got together, we put together a blogger force of thousands of bloggers, and we did a shoestring survey. The initial results of that we discussed at Solar Power International in Chicago in 2013. We had elicited lots of comments from women in the industry. We had polled a lot of women in the industry to find out, what do you think your companies are marketing well to women? And at that point, the answer was really no. So that's like 2013. 2014, we published our results, and we found lots of great information that we can talk about in a little bit that really affirm that women are the major bill writers, they're the major managers of the budgets. They really are the ones that the industry needs to be talking to. And I'll tell you, I've sat in a lot of offices in this industry where they don't have that documented in terms of customer data. They don't know this. They don't necessarily think that women are key drivers. And so this is really exciting because we're starting to see this change now. I did a piece on our Identity 3 website blog documenting that last year we started to get to take this industry experience and all of this data and start to put it into play. I mean, it's one thing to have the theory, but when you start to get to really make something happen, it gets really exciting. So we're working with All Earth Renewables, a Vermont company, made in America solar trackers, and their head of marketing, Carolyn Cook, is very consumer driven. So this is an example of, like Paige was just talking about, you're going to see more and more companies doing segmented consumer marketing that helps drive through sales through their dealer networks, that reaches women and men too, of course, but reaches them with the messages applicable to, in this case with All Earth, the eco-aware mom. So I'm excited to be here. It's just really a culmination of lots of time to work, and I want to congratulate Raina real quick and say she's taken Women for Solar into an advocacy and installation role in Florida. I can't think of a state that needs her efforts more than Florida. And so thank you everyone for having us here today.
Thank you, Glenna. And then Deborah, please introduce yourself and give us a little bit about how you got to where you are today.
Hi, I'm Deborah Knuckey. I'm with Enphase Energy and I run the global marketing team. My background is object lesson in the fact that you can reinvent yourself a few times within your career. I started out as a financial journalist in Australia, came out to the States to do my MBA and worked with McKinsey, and that was my first entry into the energy industry. I'd written about it a little, but I ended up doing some consulting for a major electric utility as well as some oil and gas, oil and gas companies. And after that, I moved into, took my background in journalism, moved into marketing consulting through Ketchum Public Relations, worked with them for a couple of years, and then quit to go write a book. And I actually wrote a book about couples and money, so I kind of have a perspective on that as well. But in the meantime, got very involved in green issues. I was doing a lot of residential real estate investment on the side and doing a lot of green renovations. And I just found the whole green technology fascinating. And I looked at my resume and went, wow, I look completely all over the place. But there was this common theme of marketing and this deep passion for green technology. So I went back to school in my 40s and did a Master's of Science in Sustainable Design and about half of an architecture degree. And I used that as a way to leverage myself into the industry I wanted and took my marketing background. I'd been doing a lot of marketing consulting on the side throughout this whole period and kind of brought it all together and joined Enphase 2.5, 3 years ago in the product marketing team. And the great thing about that is in the product marketing side, I got to get really down into the technical details so I could sit there and hold my own with any installer and any detailed questions. Work very closely with the sales team about what they needed to be equipped to sell to installers, worked on materials to help installers sell to the homeowners, and really at Enphase we see women in a lot of different roles within the company, a lot in software engineering, a number in other technical areas of engineering on the hardware side, the finance side and legal side, marketing and sales. And so I think really there's a lot of different paths into the solar industry, and the solar industry is booming so fast. It's just a great area to join, because wherever you hitch your wagon, the whole wagon or boat, the tide is rising for all of us, and so the whole team is really, a whole industry is growing, and everywhere you join, you've got a lot of upside in this industry.
Thank you all so much. I'm so excited to learn from you guys. So we'll kick it off with our first kind of question here, getting a base foundation of a little bit of research. So according to Forbes, between our buying power and our influence, women drive between 70 to 80% of all consumer purchasing. So Glenna and Paige, I know specifically you've done a little bit of research about the solar industry and women's purchasing power there. So I want to start with you two. Just what have you found to that effect, and then we'll open it up to anybody else for similar research or anecdotal evidence to that. So Paige, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
Sure. Thank you. I love this. It's so, the statistics are so powerful when you break them down. Women account for $7 trillion in consumer and business spending. And in the next decade, we expect that women will be making more than 2/3 of all consumer buying choices. So for a company who sells a product to not be thinking about how women want to buy, what women want to buy, and where we should meet them is a huge, huge miss. I think that's a great statistic, but solar hasn't always, played a part of, when we think about consumer choices. Is energy really a consumer choice? And what's increasingly sort of salient to me to see in the industry is that the choices that are traditionally male-dominated, the auto choices, sort of financial decisions, home improvement projects, those are really increasingly becoming women's choices as well. 85% of women account for all consumer purchasing. 85% of consumer purchasing decisions are made by women, and of those, more than half are coming from traditional sort of male decisions like consumer electronics, home improvement products, and that's what solar really is. What we're learning is the discussion is less about for mass adoption and the way that we want homeowners to think about changing the way they power their home. The discussion's less about the size of the panels and the wattage and more about hey, can I save money on electricity? What's it going to do for my family? What's it going to do from the bottom line? What do I have to do about it? As a homeowner, is it going to change my life? And I think it's extremely exciting to see that transition. I think Glenna has probably some great stats on how solar is being marketed and how women feel it's being marketed to them. When I look at the macro level, I think we have to be talking to women about products. The buying power is only increasing, and even more specific to solar, women are making decisions around home improvement projects, what's happening in the house, electronics, and financial decisions, such that the same way that you choose who provides your cable and who you buy your mobile from is exactly how you're going to choose and think about buying energy for your home. And that's really exciting. And even hearing Simbo talk about what's happening where she's working, women really are very influential in driving these decisions at home and in communities.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Glenna, please add to that if you would.
Okay, so women, as documented by Marty Barletta's work, and if you're interested in this area, I really counsel you to read her book, Marketing to Women. She says that women buy in 5 different stages. And so when we structured our survey, shining a marketing light on women, Raina and I were able to elicit responses from 34 states. So, for example, in buying stage number 1, deciding when to enter the market. So the example here is and Paige referenced automobiles. The example here is that you talk a lot about cars, and you look at a lot of different information about cars, but there's a point at which you say, okay, we're going to the dealership. All right? So women in our survey, 64% of them said that they are the ones who initiate the discussion in the household. So there's a really strong stat right there. So they're the ones in the majority of households that are really initiating that. They're the ones, 62% plus, they're the ones who are doing the legwork or the research. And by the way, Enphase was really ahead of the game in terms of having us present this data to their installers last year. So really, I really appreciated the Enphase support on this. Shout out to them. The short list, so that's stage 2. Now we're going to get into the short list of who are we going to talk to here. The women are the ones, over 60% of them responded that they are the ones who help to lower that short list down to 2 or 3 installers. And then let's look at, just real quickly, how many of them decide on, how many of them are paying the bills. So again, Paige referenced this, and there's all kinds of data that substantiate that women are the ones who are managing the bill. In our small survey, 81% of them said they were the ones responsible. That doesn't mean they're the ones that are making all the money, although there's a ton of data, particularly in boomer primetime women, of which I'm one, that there's just such massive amounts of buying power, and the industry has a huge opportunity to talk to women who are getting ready to move their careers into either retirement or some other stage. And these are also called primetime women. And also, so then let's look at who spreads the word about women and about solar. And I think that the industry is doing an increasingly better job of social media and moving the needle in terms of social media discussions. And it's women who are the digital divas, who are really moving these conversations forward. So I want to just do one other thing here. I want to talk real quickly about the buying power of the particular group that All Earth is targeting through their dealer marketing communications. This is called the Eco-Aware Mom as an example. She's 25 or so years old and older, and her buying power is more than 1.45 trillion annually. So she is, as Paige said, really aware of the financial aspect. She's really concerned about environmental leadership in her community and demonstrating to her children that she can, that they're ahead of the game in terms of really demonstrating leadership. And just a quick shout out to Amy Tuck at Corbet Creative that helped me with the creative work on this campaign. I just really we're going to see more of this. We're going to see more companies jumping on the bandwagon and understanding these powerful stats around women consumers are not one big group. They're segmented into various groups, of which those groups need to be spoken to in language and through marketing vehicles that work for them. So I can't think of a more exciting place to be in the industry right now, frankly.
Thank you. Now, for everybody else, does anybody else have anything to add just on the research side or
Deborah's waving her hand.
Yeah, I would love to add a little on this. Back when I wrote my book on couples and money, in general, women drove a lot of the day-to-day bill paying. And in general, for a lot of families and households, men drove a lot of the investment decisions. So I think you're really selling a few different things if you're selling solar to a family, because you're both appealing to the lower bills day to day, but you're also answering those questions. What's it doing to the value of my home? How long is the investment going to last, and so forth. So while there sounds like a lot of stereotypes in the languaging about who controls what money, bottom line, you're really selling, if a household is owned by two people, you're selling them both. If a household's owned by one person, male or female, you're selling that person. We did a lot of persona studies too when we redid our website, where we really drilled down and created those marketing groups. And for example, the eco-friendly mum that Glenna was just talking about, that's not a majority. That's a really clear, solid group, but there's also a lot of people who are motivated much more by just making it easy and making it bill friendly. So a lot of it's about really being clear about how you're targeting the households and making sure you're talking to all those different markets.
Thank you. Let's move on here, just in the interest of time, to the next question. So now that we've got a little bit of a better understanding of the data, how is that data and your company's knowledge of women as energy users shaping the marketing and product development? Deborah and Kellyann, I think you guys will really speak to this. Kellyann, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
Sunrun obviously has conducted a lot of research over the last 10 years of understanding why people are interested in solar and what motivates them to buy. And I can't add much to what we've already heard about the woman being the strong influencer, but we see that, and we make sure that the communication is very targeted for families saving money to live a smarter, more empowered life with that savings, however they choose to do that. So I think that's where you see the lifestyle marketing that Sunrun has, specifically around a savings claim of 20% or greater. I think the interesting thing that, since everyone has identified that women are the strong influencers, is it's actually created a really great opportunity for women salespeople to enter into the solar industry. And it's traditionally been a male-dominated space, and the sector that I see really excelling is women who are entering into sales. They're able to connect with that woman purchaser. They're able to connect not only on a woman level, but they're also looking at it from a broader perspective. And so I encourage folks who are interested in solar, wanting to enter into this space, and who are salespeople, to really explore the opportunity to come to work for a company that's selling residential solar or even commercial solar and excel, because women purchasers are really aligning with the woman salesperson in solar.
And with Enphase, I think a lot of the product development is also really influenced by how the end user interacts with the software day to day. Because solar sits on your roof and produces energy, but for a lot of people, it's also about the ongoing experience of how is this, is my asset performing? Am I getting the return on my investment? How many trees have I saved if you're an eco-friendly mom? How much money have I saved if you're not? And so one area that we see a lot of career growth in Enphase is in the software development side of things. We're testing things with women, where we have a lot of female software engineers, and so that's a career path that, because it's about how people interact with the product, is something where we're definitely making sure that the product is not something that just appeals to the early adopter geek guy who wants to get down into the engineering detail, but really to every type of user that's going to be interacting with the product on an ongoing basis.
Thank you. That's some great advice. Does anybody have anything else to add before we move? Simbo, hello. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay, so to corroborate for us, we found that we model ourselves after the Avon Cosmetics. We do a direct women's-to-women sales network because we found that women are much they find it so much more easy. They find it easier to relate with other women, to be able to go into their homes and have that conversation about what their energy use is, their energy problems, and to be able to provide that solution. And one of the statistics that we usually use is another one from Forbes, which talks about the strength of the women, the word-of-mouth marketing, and which is a lot of what we've done. We try to build on that connection and that relationship that the women have in their communities with each other. And they serve as the best marketing executives because they come from a place where they are able to convince or to show the products based on what they have used and experiences that they've had. And it's much more effective to do that than from an impersonal space. So that's what we found.
Thank you. That speaks to the next question that I had, because Solar Sisters focus specifically on international work and African communities. In particular, you are focused in Nigeria. You talked a little bit about why you're focusing on women. Do you have anything to add as far as the impact of mainly focusing and mainly having your program be for women only that you would like to share?
Yes, so we found that women manage energy in the homes. They make the decision as to how their homes are lit and how energy is used even for cooking at home. And we found that in many cultures in Africa, it's only a woman that can go into another woman's home to be able to have any sort of discussion, let alone a sales discussion. So we found that women have this unique position of being not just sellers of the products, but users as well as sellers. And we found that using women as the distribution channel is not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. Women are in that unique position where they can have the direct discussion with their peers or with the other women in the community about clean energy, about the benefits, the health benefits, the savings, and so much more. We also recently had a survey in December last year where we asked 300 of our Solar Sister entrepreneurs what benefits have they found since they've been working with us, and what impact has this made on them. And we found, of course, a lot of them mentioned the benefits of the income, the added income, and the saving. But we found that it was a lot more than that. A lot of people had benefits such as sisterhood, as roles in their communities, and it was so much more. So for us, it's building this sisterhood of clean tech women who serve as, who really care about their community and care about what impact clean energy would have on their community.
Thank you so much. We have a ton of amazing questions from the audience. We've got just a little bit of time left. I'm going to go into one question for everybody else, and then we'll get into the questions from the audience since we have so many of them. With everything that we have talked about already today, kind of the research and what's happening right now in marketing and tech, looking forward as women continue to shape the industry, what are you all individually most excited about thinking about that? So Paige, I'll go ahead and kick it back to you first.
What a great question. Well, these conversations are always sort of induce excitement because there's so much exciting potential. But I really think about crossing the adoption gap in the category of clean energy, and I am really excited about the time that is, not too far around the corner when people broadly think about their energy source as a considered consumer purchase. I think that as a male and female, huge paradigm shift, and women will drive a lot of that, but it will just be a new consumer sort of a decision that we all think about. I think clean energy choices will be competitive and affordable, and that solar will be a big piece of those viable choices. And more specifically, I think through that process, the job opportunities, the industry opportunities will be amazing, and I think about the way that we're all going to be hiring and looking for talent, and it certainly extends beyond solar experts, and the doors are wide open for people who are new to the industry, are interested in the industry, and want to do something different. I think watching the category grow and watching the sort of talent pool and contributors to the category grow are just I'm buckled up and excited to participate in that.
Thank you. Deborah, I'm going to kick it all the way over to your side. Why don't you go next?
So I think there's two big trends that are really interesting. One is just the growth of the industry, because we haven't scratched the surface yet in North America. There are some cities in Australia where 25% of all single-family homes have solar. We are just taking baby steps here. So the upside is massive. There's already 174,000 people in North America in the United States working in solar. I don't see any reason why that can't double or triple, because these are jobs that can't be exported. The second trend that I think is really interesting is the coming together of solar and storage and other renewables into this really kind of internet of energy, this internet of things where solar, our systems already talk to a Nest thermometer. The whole coming together of technology is going to make solar a whole lot more interesting, and it's not just going to be about solar. It's really going to be about energy and intelligent energy, and so it's really fun. From my geek side, loves all that stuff.
Thank you. Glenna.
There's so many parts of this that are exciting right now. From the female empowerment side, I see great opportunities in solar installers. To Simbo's comments, there's great opportunities. The solar installers that I've talked with who have had a female salesperson who has obviously worked hard, to get to know her craft, these examples have really been successful. And so I see great opportunities for women in terms of sales on the installer and all through the value chain of solar. I also see great opportunities for women in direct sales. And there are new models like Crew popping up all around the country that are taking from the direct sales model, in which women generate something like $12 billion or more a year every year in terms of direct sales. I'm not talking about multi-level necessarily, I'm talking about direct sales. So I think there's huge opportunities for women to overcome the technological challenges related to solar, or the perceived challenges, and really provide extra income for their families and their own households. On the marketing side, there are going to be tremendous breakthroughs in terms of content marketing and social marketing related to, as Deborah mentioned, the persona, much more sophisticated persona development. We're going to see more examples like the All Earth example where manufacturers are getting much more savvy in terms of helping their installers move forward and directly communicate with women. And on an international level, because I'm very blessed to have some international clients, and I see this sort of international thing happening where more and more women are becoming empowered to work in the industry and to move into management and senior management positions. To me, it's going to be very exciting to see more and more women in senior management in different companies across the globe working to fulfill the Paris Agreement. I mean, the time that we all live in right now is such an exciting time, and it's crucial. It's crucial in terms of the forward momentum of humanity on the planet, male and female alike. So for all of us to be involved in this time in history in which we get to play a part in fulfilling a bright future for the generations to come, it sounds very, pie in the sky, but it's not. I mean, all those 100+ countries came together in Paris and agreed to a historic agreement, and we are on a day-to-day basis making that happen. I cannot think of a better industry for women to jump in somewhere, someplace to get involved. So,
thank you. Kellyann, what are you excited about moving forward?
Technology coming together and really delivering a high impact value to the consumer, where they're empowered to control their home energy, or even the home in a smart, beneficial way for them. And I think it allows them to not have to think so techy, and they will have all of the benefits. And the other thing that I'm very excited about is this idea with the technology and the renewables and storage coming together. A lot of different industries are starting to blend. So where you had folks from the software side of it who were really interested in renewables and they couldn't see a bridge to cross, it's starting to create bridges for them to be able to leverage their technology, software background and get into renewables, and also those folks from renewables to be able to get into some technology centric. So it really creates a bigger pool for people to join and to bring a lot of expertise into it and to pollinate and share some ideas. The day that you can manage your home's energy in a no-brainer way, you don't have to think about it. It tells you when to be most efficient and when to make the best, cleanest choices for you and your family. I think everybody starts to win, the consumer, and the business side of it. So that's what I get very excited about.
Thank you so much. And Simbo, last but not least, what are you excited about?
For me, it's building this network of tech women in the most remote parts of communities in Africa. It's really exciting to see in the communities where knowledge of IT or the use of any type of clean energy is nascent and non-existent in many cases. And to see women leading on this innovation and the adoption of solar, to me, it's very exciting. And it calls for this new movement. And I think doing it with women, starting with women, is the right way to go. And it just makes me really excited. So.
Thank you all so much. So we're going to move on, like I said, to questions from everybody out there. And one of the first ones that we got, I'm going to do a little plug for Grid, was from Wendy. She asked about training programs for women as installers, and I'll go ahead and give a little shout out to the Women in Solar Initiative. Our whole Grid Alternatives whole model is volunteer based. So if you want to get out on a roof and on the ground and learn how to bend conduit and pull wire and whole system start to finish, volunteering with Grid Alternatives is a great way to do that. There are also a lot of online courses and great resources for people out there who are interested. Our first actually Women in Solar webcast was all about women in construction, and that particular conversation, Wendy, and everybody out there who's listening, had a lot of great resources for people who are interested in the installing aspect in general. So next question I wanted to move on to was from oh goodness, where is it at? Sorry here, we've got a ton. I'll just move on to one and then find a different one. Here's one from Juliet Bontea. She says, and this is open for all panelists, so please just unmute yourself and answer. Is the goal to boost economic opportunities for women or to use women as the driving force for a more sustainable future?
Yes, both.
That's exactly.
Getting a lot of nodding and agreeing. Yes, agreed. We both want to make the future more sustainable and obviously engage women in the industry, and from here to the U.S., everywhere around the world, as Simbo is saying, just to bring the women into the industry because it is booming and there is a lot of opportunity for people to get involved.
And a lot of the customers don't really care about the sustainability. They care about saving money, but it grows jobs, it grows all sorts of things. So there's no downside here.
Yeah, I think, again, to the consumer segment piece, the reasons in which people go solar are so varied. I mean, some of them is because of sustainability, some of it's to save money, some of it's to, stick it to the utility company and they prove they're independent. All those different reasons are fantastic, and I think what we're all excited about is speaking more to women as well as all the different segments, and providing income opportunities for women, and promoting sort of sustainability and better resources and there are a lot of sort of benefits of engaging women in all different aspects of this solar discussion.
Absolutely. So from Kristen Brown, we've got another question. She asks, is there a disconnect between what women or users in general want in these technologies and how the technologies are designed, or is it purely a marketing effort? Kind of getting back to that, but let's stick with the first part of her question about is there a disconnect between what women want in the technology and how it's being designed?
I think what women want in the technology is a very efficient, effective solution that is not overcomplicated and intimidating to use. And it should be to empower them to live a smarter life versus having another thing on their list of proficiencies to gain. And so I think those are consumers in general, but because women typically are not only managing the home, but they're also managing their careers and they're planning their family, and it's a multi-level responsibility spectrum that they manage, that they want to know that they have the most efficient solution that's not going to be too complicated to maximize the benefit.
And I think there are a couple different pieces of technology. There are, PV panels and equipment, and then there's, as Deborah was saying, sort of the Internet of Energy, all the other components that go with that. How does your family use energy efficiency? How do you learn what's going on with your panels? So I think there's both a simplification and broadening of the message of how PV works, as well as broadening the discussion of what is technology that goes with energy choice.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to add to this one as well. I think that women, at sort of that kitchen table selling environment, women want all their questions answered. They want to be listened to and taken seriously. They want to have a salesperson, stepping them through all the various aspects of the impact that the solar power system has on their household, including how do they pay the bill, since they are paying the bills. So it sounds pretty basic, but we've talked to women who had salespeople in their homes and were short-coursed, or their questions were not considered serious, or or didn't understand that they had a whole raft of questions that related to lifestyle. And I think Kellyann used the lifestyle marketing term. That really gets down to the nitty-gritty of how do we train our salespeople to answer all of her questions.
Thank you. And then we've had a couple questions from ladies about kind of educational background. Juliet again saying, what's the ideal educational background? And then Justine asking, how did you identify what you needed to transition into the renewable energy industry? Talking about additional education, job experience, things like that. So how did you actually find what you needed to get into the industry? And then how long did it take for you to take those steps and kind of complete the transition?
I'll take a stab at that. It depends on where you are in your career. If you're just getting into your career, you're passionate about renewables, and you're in the early stages of whatever your skill set is, I think there's a lot of entry-level positions that you can just jump into without a lot of specific renewable trainings. And I know at Sunrun here, we invest a lot of time and effort and money making sure that our sales folks are up to speed on the core competencies and fundamentals of sales practices, as well as what is solar. So you get that when you're entry level. For myself, I'd been in sales at that point for 15, 17 years. And so, for me, I consulted for 2 years with renewable types of companies. I worked with an anaerobic biogas company. I worked with a solar policy group. And you really start to build your network of folks in this industry, and then you're leveraging your skill set. And most of these renewable companies, most specifically solar then, they were just needing experienced professionals to come and bring that type of skill set in and learn the solar business as you were applying these values. So I know there's a lot of great programs out there, but really if you're passionate about renewables, then I would just embrace it head on and figure out how to take your skill set and convince a company that you're really passionate about and you have belief behind their mission, how your skill set is going to move their mission forward, and just be tenacious and clear about it.
Thank you.
I'd really agree with Kellyann. The vast majority of people who join Enphase come from totally different industries. We get a lot of people from telecom, technology, and so forth. It depends what role. If you want to come in and work as a lawyer, the key is to be a great lawyer, and you can apply that in different industries. The more hands-on you are, probably, if you want to be a hands-on installer, you need hands-on experience. That's where an organization like Grig comes in, and the training period for that is relatively short. If you want to learn the language, you can do the U.S. Green Building Council has a lead green associate or a lead AP associate, which you can just do online courses, and that gives you the language of renewables as a whole, which could be handy. Basically, the more that you're going, if you're selling to residential, it's a very different thing to selling to commercial. The more technical the sale or the more technical the role, the more expertise you need. But the expertise may be functional, not necessarily industry. So if you're a brilliant software programmer, you can be a brilliant software programmer in us or in dirty coal. It's your choice. It's only certain positions that actually need the deep technical understanding before you enter.
Thank you. I'll move on to what might be our last question, but I think this is a really great question from Alyssa Jean Schaefer. She asks or says, oftentimes marketing to women can come across as patronizing. This is often unintentional, but what is the panel's thoughts on how we can consciously overcome this?
Okay. For us, what we do is, because obviously we target women, so we are very specific about our language, our material, and because we're using women, so we test our material on ourselves first. It's very important that we keep it simple. We invest a lot in our training material, our visual material, and things that we use, and they're all usually tested with women first. So yes, I don't. They don't necessarily have to be less informative than any material that would go to a man. But for us, what we just test is that a woman is able to read this, she's able to understand it, it relates to her situation and the things that she does. We use very visual material, and we use a lot of experiential material from both the sellers themselves and also from other case studies in other countries. So it's one of the things that we avoid. We try to ensure that all our material are tested on women before they're delivered, and they're delivered through women.
I might add that I think it's incumbent that it's all about research, and it's not, we're not going to use pink font to appeal to women. We may, if that works, but that's not really the target of sort of having that maybe perhaps patronizing sort of focus for women. What's incumbent on the sort of industry is to understand what women want first as a product and as a category. So do the research and why is it important to me as a person and as a woman and as a homeowner, and then target our messages in marketing around solving those considerations for that homeowner, for that woman. So the message doesn't become pink and fluffy and high heels. It becomes, hey, we know there are a lot of people who this product is good for, many of whom are women. These are the things that are important to them. Let's talk about those specific things.
And I think any salesperson who assumes that a woman is making a decision based on how does it look on my house or just on money is completely underestimating. So it's incumbent on women to educate male salespeople about the fact that women are just as interested in the technology and in the safety and in the, what does it mean for the value of my home and these bigger questions. The reason I don't own a Chevy Volt is my husband and I walked in to buy one, and they kept looking at me saying, oh, it comes in red. It's like, well, really, who gives a damn what color it is? Tell me the miles per gallon. And so if salespeople underestimate the technical and deep interest that the women customers have, they won't sell well. So solar companies have to educate their sales force about what women and what men really care about. And it's not really about the aesthetics in 99% of the time. It's not about the warm fuzzy stuff. It's really about these other questions as soon as you've got over that first question about should I go solar.
I'd like to also add that as marketers, I think that it's really important. Am I on mute? No, I'm on. Am I okay?
You're good.
I think it's really honoring, actually, of women to find out what they want, where do they go for their information, who do they talk to, how do they accumulate their own research, and what are their buying questions as they go through their journey of making a decision. It's honoring to them to really pay attention to the things that are important to them, and as marketers figure out how to reach them where they live, so to speak, and give them the kinds of information that they're really looking for to make a decision that impacts their household and their business, as more and more women are responsible for commercial and corporate sorts of sustainability decisions. So for me, that's an exciting part of this equation, is looking at how can marketing target and be authentic in the places that the women live according to their demographic groups. So I think that answers Alyssa's question. All of our answers do.
Yes. Thank you all so much. It is noon on the dot. So there were a lot of questions we would love to keep the conversation going with all of you out there on either our Facebook or LinkedIn, or tweet us at Grid, and you can also find everybody's Twitter handle there. If any of you out there are interested in getting more involved with Grid Alternatives and volunteering, or just learning more about the Women in Solar Initiative, you can do so at gridalternatives.org/women. I want to give a huge thank you to all of our panelists, Paige, Deborah, Kellyann, Simbo, and Glenna, and also a thank you to our friends at SunEdison for their partnership in the Women in Solar Initiative. Thank you all out there for your wonderful questions, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.